Hi everyone, welcome back to SmugMug Live. Thank you so much for joining me today wherever you are in the world. You're more than welcome here on our show. As always, SmugMug Live is brought to you by SmugMug and Flickr. If you're looking for an incredible place to store your images in the cloud, to have a beautiful website to share your images with the world, or to have an incredible, robust e-commerce solution to sell your images, then check out everything we have to offer at smugmug.com. Or if you're looking to be part of an incredible photo community, then please check out all the things we offer over at flickr.com. My name's Alastair Jolly. I'm your host today for the show, as always, and in a few moments I'll be joined by Jeremy Allen from the Full-Time Hobby. Looking forward to having our conversation live here on the show. I can see lots of you in there in the chat window already. Give yourself a shout out in the chat window. Let us know what part of the world you are joining us from. It's always good to see a nice international crowd in the chat window. And if you have a question today at any point for our guest, then just post that question in the chat window. Start your question with the word question dash. That way I can find it easily in amongst the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. There's one last thing. I would be delighted if you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification. That way you'll be notified every time we release another episode here on SmugMug Live, or indeed one of our SmugMug films. So without further ado, let's head over to Canada and see if Jeremy Allen is with us today. Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks so much for having me, Al. I'm super stoked to be here and be a part of the SmugMug community.
Well, we are delighted that you're joining us today. Thank you for finding the time. Where exactly do we find you today?
I'm in Squamish, British Columbia, so on the west coast of Canada, close to the ocean, close to the mountains. We got everything in between here. We're super blessed, and some beautiful trees. Got the places for photos, and that's where I find most of my inspiration.
A
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful part of the world. In fact, there's a few people from Squamish in the chat window. So let's head over to the chat and see who's joining us today. Maybe you'll recognize some of these people. Jeremy, Gail Stefan is joining us from Surrey, BC. Good
Hey,
morning,
Gail.
Gail. Jeremy is joining us from Canyon Lake, a regular visitor to the channel. Christian says, Jeremy is the man.
Christian. Hey, thanks.
What's up, man? Good to
Oh,
see you.
big shout out.
I won't feel bad that it's you're the man and not me, but that's okay. Scott is joining us from Northern Illinois, I guess that is. Pat is
Hey,
joining us from
Scott.
Santa Cruz, California, a little bit closer to our headquarters than BC. Who else is here? John's from Toronto, or Toronto, I guess. Jenna Bowerman is from Squamish, BC. Is that a name you recognize?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Jenna.
Christian says, hey, buddy. Dunia is joining
Oh,
us from Montreal. So,
Dunya.
yeah,
Oh,
lots of
that's where I
great
grew up.
people in the chat window. So, yeah, thank you for that. So, you grew up on the opposite side of the country from where you are at the moment, then?
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up in Montreal and basically moved out to Whistler when I was just finishing college. So, my dad took us out here in 2011 to ski and just check out the mountains. He'd always told us about it. He lived out here after college as well. So kind of followed in his footsteps on that. And after I saw the mountains and, nature and what, the West Coast has to offer, I was drawn so much to being coming out here and I just kind of moved out here after college and never looked back, to be honest. Like I go back to Montreal every couple years, but this is definitely my home for the future. This is
You
where I
got
need to be.
you got hooked by the mountains.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
completely
Yeah.
understandable. I'm sure lots of people tuning in today understand that draw to the mountains that many of us feel as an avid skier and photographer myself. I completely get it. So, how long have you been out there then?
So I've been living in Whistler for 6 years. I mean, I moved to Whistler first off, and then I went to Pemberton, lived in a little cabin in the woods. Then I went down to Squamish, and I've been in Squamish for 2 years now, and just kind of been loving it. Kind of got into rock climbing, and everything has just been so nice. There's not too much snow here, so if you don't have to shovel your driveway as you used to have to in Whistler and Montreal, it's been such a blessing, honestly, to have this whole corridor. They call it the sea to sky corridor because where we are here in Squamish is the ocean, and then when you get to Whistler, it's about 600 meters of elevation, so you're kind of in the clouds. And it's just we're so lucky to be Canadian and have all this this huge playground underneath our feet.
beach in the morning, skiing in the afternoon type thing. Is that what you,
Yeah, exactly. I could do it all. Oh, I was thinking my internet's a little buggy right now. Sorry, everybody.
that's okay. The joys of live streaming is sometimes the internet decides that I'm way better looking than you are, so pixelates you so that you don't have to look at me. We have a
Your
program.
camera does look good.
We have a program over here. What is it called? Crime Watch. You know where they do that thing where it's all about catching criminals. So we'll just kid on you're in like, I don't know, witness protection or something, and that's why we're scrambling your face the way it is.
Protection for myself. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's the joys of live streaming. Sometimes it gets a little glitchy on the stream, but we'll bear with it. I'm sure it will stabilize, especially when we get to looking at some of your amazing pictures. So you've spoke about moving out to Squamish for the mountains and the lifestyle, and that's really what your photography is about, right? That type of lifestyle, that adventure lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when I moved out here, I kind of just fell in love with the mountains. My mom had bought me this small point and shoot camera, and I was just shooting with my buddies in like the Blackcomb Park, my good friend David. And he actually took this one image I took of him and used it as his Facebook like banner. This was years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I didn't realize what kind of a profound effect that had on me. And it basically stoked me up to want to, take images for other people to see and for myself to just like have these memories and stuff like that. So after I moved out here, picked up the camera way more than I had on the East Coast, and just started shooting like relentlessly. And then I went traveling, went to Hawaii, went to Europe, and then I did a road trip through Canada and the States. And ever since then, like just meeting people and kind of having all these good opportunities to learn to take images has really just kind of drawn me back to photography and art as a whole, and just kind of the therapy behind it. It's not just to create images and make money as some people might think, but art was never made or started off to be, to make money. So for me, like one of my big things I always say is I'd rather have a full soul than a full pocket of money. So, it's one of those things with me with art that I just love to get out there for reasons other than just to try to chase a paycheck.
That's great, but if you can have both, it's even better, right? So that
Yeah, totally.
that's cool. It's funny how sometimes we can trace back that single moment in our photography careers where we suddenly just connected with the medium of photography. I think a lot of us recognize that moment where maybe not even the first time they took photographs or the first time they had a camera, but that specific moment, maybe even a specific place where suddenly the connection with the camera just made sense and it just became the thing that you were going to do for the rest of your life.
It totally made sense in that moment, and I was able to combine that passion of skiing and I guess that passion for art that I didn't fully realize I had until I actually got out there and really just started taking images and capturing like these moments in time that can never be recreated. And I just found that so interesting and beautiful, and like no one can ever take the same image that I did, or that you did, or anybody in the
Yeah.
audience did, right? That's why I think a lot of us take photos, is to just have that method of expression, for example.
Yeah, indeed. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, Jeremy. I'm going to ask you to kill your connection for me
Okay.
and then dial back in, and we'll see if we can trick your internet into giving you a better picture because you are super pixelated. So just cut your
Yeah.
stream just now and then dial back in, and I'll connect
Okay.
you. So thanks for doing that.
Try.
While Jeremy's hanging up and dialing back in to hopefully stabilize his internet a little bit more, great to see so many of you in the chat window giving shout outs to Jeremy and yourself, obviously. Keep those coming. But of course, if you have any questions today for Jeremy, then yeah, just put them in the chat window and I'll be sure to ask those questions of him. So let's see if we have Jeremy back. There you go. That's a little bit better.
Is that a little
So
bit better?
a little
Oh,
bit.
it's so funny because I took it off Wi-Fi and everything and put it on the hard wire, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Call it the internet gods, the live stream gods.
Mhm.
Sometimes they have fun with us, but that's cool. So you've fallen in love with photography. You've fallen in love with the mountains. When did you decide that your kind of adventure sport was going to be part of the photographic journey?
Yeah, adventure sport really started when I was traveling, right? I went through Europe with one of my best friends, or a couple of my best friends at the time. And I kind of realized that I was taking so many photos and working so hard on this thing that I call the hobby, that it was like into a full-time job essentially. I wasn't making any money from it, but I was putting in the hours that anybody would into a full-time job. And it was from that point with traveling Europe and backpacking and just capturing these moments where we're so dead and so beat from traveling for so long that we kind of pick up the camera and take an image and just capture this moment from us just kind of beat and burnt. And then from there I kind of realized, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I love so much, is traveling and being with my friends and the outdoors. And just it kind of just like sprung me. It just sprung me to like a different like dimension almost, to continue to get out there and just have the best times ever in the mountains. And whether it be in a city with my friends or yeah. And I think something else also that really kind of pricked me as well was the fact that I could be out there, have this knee issue that I had for so many years, so I can't really ski the way I used to, but at least I could take photos of some of my best friends dropping the cliffs that I was used to be able to do. So there's so many different realms of where and how I kind of got into photography and got into action sports and adventure. But I think like as a whole, travel was what really like brought me to figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Travel has such a profound effect on everybody, I think, and I can't stress it enough to put some money into experiences than into material hard goods sometimes.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that you had issues that don't let you ski the way you used to. I have that issues that stop me skiing the way I used to, but it's called old age. But and
My knees say the same thing.
old age and lack of talent, I think, is one of the other reasons I don't ski the way I used to. But it's great to hear that. What tell me about the name, the full time hobby, because I've obviously it's how you're known to many people. It's the name of your business, but there's more to it than just the name of a business, right? It's a kind of mindset, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, like I said, it all started when I was traveling through Europe. I was actually in Ireland and I was putting so many hours into this hobby of mine. And I realized I was just like, man, this is so much more than just a hobby. This is a full-time job, but that I'm not making money from. Um, and like, once again, we're bringing it back to the whole sense of not wanting to do it for the paycheck. And that's when the best things come, right? So as it was a hobby, it was just for good times and the pleasure and the passion for, months and months and months. And then at one point I finally got offered like a gig. That's when it all kind of sunk in. I was like, oh my gosh, this could actually be a real thing. This could be my job. This could be my life, like my lifestyle. And I think with the full-time hobby, it's not just about myself. I kind of really wanted it to be a connectable entity. So like I think just having my name as Jeremy Allen Photography, as we kind of spoke about in the past, Al, was like it's almost like not you're unreachable, but it's much more welcoming, the full-time hobby, than it would just be Jeremy Allen Photography, right? Like I don't want this just to be about me. I want this to be about everybody. I want to inspire people to get outside. We post thought-provoking things on Instagram where it's like, why do you take photos? Why do you take images? And then so many people are saying this is what I do it for. And then it kind of makes me realize like, wow, like we're having a profound effect on people around the world on how, like they go out and take images and what they do it for.
Yeah, got a bigger legacy hopefully than just Jeremy Allen taking pictures. There's more to it with the full time
Well,
hobby
that's
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Go
I
ahead.
kind of want to like make it into a sense of everybody's able to be a part of it, right? And I've had this thought running through my mind, like, do I take the full-time hobby and make it into more of a community aspect where anybody could submit and anybody can be posted on the full-time hobby on Instagram? So this is something that's been going through my mind for so long, and as much as it's an option, I'd love to know everybody's feedback on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it'd be so cool to hear what other people think about that.
Yeah, and then another interesting place where we're connecting with the full time hobby these days is over in Clubhouse as well, right? You've got quite a busy channel over there in Clubhouse at the moment.
Yeah, Clubhouse has been instrumental. It's been absolutely incredible to make so many amazing connections, and I think with the whole COVID, it's just been so nice to have these live conversations with people around the world. That's how Al and I had met, was on Clubhouse, right? Like
It was, yeah.
it's such an amazing space to create a community and just meet so many amazing people and provide knowledge for those around that, are just getting into the industry. Like if I would have had Clubhouse when I started photography, I probably would have been, 2 or 3 years in advance in the future and better than what I already am today, right? So I think Clubhouse has just been absolutely a blessing in disguise for me. I couldn't imagine this is something that stumbled into my life, but I had a friend one night that basically messaged me. He's like, "Hey, listen, like I have this opportunity. You should get in. I have one invite if you want to come in, like, but you got to use it." And I was like, "Okay, what is this?" This is my good friend Matthew Arsenault, Leo Current, and basically from there, I just kind of joined a room. I think I was on the app for like 3 or 4 hours that night, meeting photographers from all around the world. And I was like, this is so cool. Like people are just genuinely here to have conversation about cameras, about business, licensing, whatever it may be. And then I started hosting rooms and I started just seeing people come together and just gather around. And it was just such a beautiful thing. I can't stress enough how amazing Clubhouse has been for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and a huge part of my role, both at SmugMug and Flickr, is bringing the community together, and our ambassador community, our community of customers, and our Flickr product is it's a community of communities, and if you're talking about building communities, it's a great place. Obviously, Clubhouse is very conversational, whereas Flickr is much more visual in that sense. And it's interesting. Pat Durr, who's watching today, came back and said that would be cool when you were talking about community. He says you should start a Flickr group.
Yeah.
So I didn't pay him to say that. That was just a general conversation. I don't know Pat, so but great content
Good idea,
comment.
Pat. Good
Yeah,
idea.
I'll speak to Jeremy afterwards. Maybe we can get the full time hobby on a Flickr group as well. He might as well be everywhere. But I love that. We as I say, a big part of my role is keeping the community engaged and together, and it's kind of why I started SmugMug Live. The live stream was to allow our ambassadors to connect and communicate and share their passion and have questions from the community. And I guess Clubhouse is another place that's filling a very very kind of topical need at the moment, where people can't be together due to the pandemic, and there's this opportunity to be together sometimes for far too long in a day on Clubhouse.
Totally. Totally. And if you're one that's listening and you're on Clubhouse 8 hours a day, like make sure that you're implementing. You're not
Yeah,
just listening. I think there's a saying about mastery when it comes to art and stuff like that. If you're listening and you're not implementing, you're not mastering. As soon as you can add that into your skill set and you're continuously repeating this, that's when it becomes a masterful skill. So
yeah. And they talk about being proficient in your industry as doing 10,000 hours, but it's not listening for 10,000 hours on YouTube or Clubhouse or
exactly.
something. It's actually practicing your craft and doing that for 10,000 hours if you can. But I just want to say I do see those questions that are coming in, but I'll maybe keep some of those till later on, once we've had a little discussion about Jeremy's photography at the moment. So I think it's about time we showed some photographs. This is a photography product and channel, so we should look at some of your photographs, and of course we're delighted that you're a SmugMug user, of course, and we're going to head over to Jeremy's SmugMug account and have a look at some images that you've pulled together for us today, and you're going to tell us some stories behind some of these images. So we'll start with this epic. It's incredible.
Yeah, this one's got a pretty cool story behind it. This was one of my first mountain biking photos ever. It was during Crankworks, which is a very popular downhill biking event in
Yeah,
Whistler every
huge.
year.
Yeah,
And these guys from Italy just messaged me on Instagram like, "Hey, do you want to show us around?" They were professional bikers. I was like, "Of course, let's do it." We went to we went cliff jumping and stuff. And then they're like, "Hey, have you heard of the train gap?" I'm like, "I haven't, man. Like, I'm not a biker. Like, you want to come shoot it?" I was like, "Okay, that sounds cool." So here we are. These guys are like the best bikers, some of the best bikers in the world. Like, one of them did like no hands over this whole gap and stuff like that. And if you zoom in super close in this image, you might not be able to do it here, but you could actually see the train conductor looking up, which is so incredible. It's pretty gnarly. The guy on the left there, he's kind of got his eyes up in the sky, like looking around. And I ended up finding out who this person was. Essentially a couple months ago when I sold a print, they're like, "Oh, I know that conductor. Like my husband is like a conductor," and basically got me linked up with them, and they got a signed print for me of this image because it was him, which is so crazy. But this is an image actually that ended up me landing work with Red Bull. So I just posted this on social media for fun, and Red Bull saw it after I had met them, and it was just from there on in, things just started changing for me, right? Like I didn't really shoot much sports action, but this was one of the the turn points of my career with action sport photography for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So was this? I'm assuming the train was not aware that this was about to happen. You just timed it that there'd be a train there. So,
Yeah, exactly. People
so
have done this train gap before, right? But it was completely random. We actually had to go back 3 or 4 times because we would miss the train or miss the shot like on the perfect timing.
yeah,
And then this was like 2 hours before his flight, and he's like, "We need to get the shot." We got the shot, and he drove down to
Incredible.
Vancouver and took off back to Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to put a big disclaimer, like, don't try this at home, kids. Like,
No, don't try this. Yeah, we haven't done it since. This was the last time, and probably the last time I'll do such a
yeah,
thing.
I'm laughing
Yeah.
at, or not laughing, but I can appreciate some of the comments that are coming in. Pat says, what? Wow. Yeah. Christian says,
Yeah.
yes. Wanna,
I
you
get
love that
asked a
one.
lot if this is Photoshop, but no, this is not Photoshop. This is
Yeah.
real. And I think the next image that we have, you might see a different angle on it.
Scott says, one heck of a way to start your mountain biking photo career.
Totally. Totally.
That is
Yeah.
insane. And were you down by the track side as well?
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
took the photo by
awesome.
the track, and then
Yeah,
as soon as it happened, I ducked out of there. I moved
yeah,
away, and he honked his horn. He seemed kind of stoked, which was kind of interesting. Like I don't know, I'd be kind of freaked out, like to make
yeah,
sure that someone didn't get hurt doing this. Like it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. So
yeah. This is awesome, and I
wouldn't.
shouldn't be liking it, but don't do that again. But yay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't express enough, folks, that you should not photograph beside live
yeah,
tracks anywhere in the world, even tracks that you think are no longer used. Unfortunately, there are some horrendous stories of photographers and their clients getting into difficulties on train tracks. So don't try this at home. Let's
yes.
see what's next.
Hmm.
Yeah, another interesting shot. Tells a little bit about this one.
So this is a selfie, believe it or not. This was just one night in La Push, Washington, on a road trip to the States, and this was when one of my kind of, again, like a turn point in my career for night photography. I realized what I could do with light, and I'd picked up this lantern from a company that I had met in Salt Lake City, I think it was. They just gave me it. They're like, "We love what you're doing. Just take this lantern and do whatever you can with it." And I was like, "Cool." So here we are. This is just directly over the ocean, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Like I was looking at this frame, like standing outside of the tent, and I was like, "This is incredible. I've got to shoot this." And I had no idea what the light would do either, because it was one of my first times ever like painting with light, I guess you would call it. And it just kind of blew my mind when I looked behind the LCD, and I lost my beans. Like this thing is, there's so many different lighting sources in here. You got the Milky Way, you've got some glow. Like there's like almost looks like aurora borealis. There's like some green glow that comes over the ocean sometimes. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. If there's anybody in the audience that knows about this, it'd be really cool to see a comment in the comment sections. But this was just an astronomical moment for me. I remember I was just alone with my ex-girlfriend. We were just sitting there, and I basically ran up, took the photo, and I lost it after that. I was like, this is gonna stoke me up forever to take more images at nighttime.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
obviously didn't like it very much if she's your ex.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
The
You're a funny guy, Al. You're a funny guy.
well, that was an easy shot. You set that one up for me. The you mentioned a lantern that you were given by a company in Salt Lake City. It wasn't Gold Zero by any chance, was it?
No,
No,
it was Bare
no.
Bones.
Bare Bones.
Bare
Yeah,
Bones
cool.
is the company. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
cool outdoor brands out of that part of the world for sure.
Hmm.
Now I know a little bit about the story of this one. In fact, you've called it Hidden Hut, and
Yeah.
you told me a little of the backstory about this hut that you stayed in. But why don't you tell everybody how this all happened?
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. You could tell it was a pretty foggy night, right? We were coming up, it was just getting dark. We've been told this cabin has a tendency to get buried. We knew that this was a possibility. We may not might be able to find it. It could have been completely buried. We'd never been there before. We were probably about 40 kilometers out in the backcountry, 40 kilometers from anybody, like very far in the middle of nowhere. And we were ski touring. You can kind of see our tracks on the left side of the hut. And we were ski touring. We were kind of going, we go past it. We couldn't find it. We thought it was over. We thought we are gonna have to dig a hole or something like that and sleep somewhere. We had no idea. And we start going backwards. And then as we're coming back, must have been maybe like we were about to give up. And then all of a sudden we see this little Canadian flag just sticking out of the snow. It was the smallest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't believe my eyes. So essentially we saw it and we're like, oh my gosh, we've been saved. But it wasn't that easy. So this is the back side of the hut. On the other side, it was almost the same kind of thing. We had to dig our way into the hut. And then we had a lantern in there, the same lantern basically lighting up this shot. We were out there just hanging out in the snow. It was such a beautiful evening. I think we were drinking a pint of Guinness or something like that. And it
Of
was just
course.
such a nice night. Yeah, I'm a big fan. But it was just such a perfect evening. And I remember I asked my buddy, like, hey, could you go back in there and turn this lantern on in this specific spot? I just have a perfect idea here. Because this tells a story of how we almost didn't find the hut. Like, this is all there was. And then like on the other side, there was like a small little red flag and it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything. And this photo has gone on to sell multiple times in fine art print formats and such a thing. It's just been this again to me was one of my favorite nights of my life, especially in the backcountry. And then
Yeah.
we have another photo next for when like it kind of cleared up in the whole area. And I guess you could, unless you have more questions for it,
Well,
Al, but
I was just going to say that, after, thinking that, oh, we're in trouble, like there's nowhere to stay tonight, I can only imagine how good it would feel to find that little flag, but then having to dig into it. If you've dug into your hut, I think you're entitled to a Guinness, dude. I think that's
oh
amazing.
yeah, and that's so cool because there's this huge fireplace in there, like it's massive. And basically, we turned on the fireplace, and that place got to like 30 degrees Celsius in like an hour. We were sweating. We had to take off our shirts because snow acts as insulation,
Yeah.
right? It was absolutely incredible, and we were sleeping on top of our sleeping bags that night, just the most cozy we've ever been in our lives. It was too good to be true. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
it was
seen a lot.
scary.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of locations in the Alps like this, and where you have to dig into those little kind of refugee huts that they have around the place. The thing you have to be careful though is if you do light a fire, you have to make sure there's an exhaust for that fire, the chimney or something is clear.
Oh yeah,
Otherwise, you get into serious difficulties if you're under snow
yeah,
with
totally.
fumes. Yeah, so this is the next shot.
So this is out the front of the hut, looking to the right, and this is the zone. This was just the next night, and it was just absolutely incredible, right? So if you're not familiar with the backcountry and skiing, essentially what you do is you have these skins that go on the bottom of your skis, and this allows you to go uphill on mountains and stuff like that, basically to earn your turns. So we had this perfect track, and I remember just sitting out there the next night looking, and I was just like, I saw the moon coming up, and I just saw this light. This is all just the moon doing its thing, and this mountain is just still waiting to be skied from us. We're planning on going back again, hopefully in a couple weeks to bag that couloir on the right there. But this was just an absolutely incredible space. Like the whole area was just unspeakable. And there's actually a lake right there in the summertime. So we've been up there in the summer and the winter, and it's just been it just brings back such good memories, this place.
I love it when people think about a place and the word that comes out is oh. It's like it sums
Yeah.
up. I don't even have the words. It's just yeah. Is that your happy place?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The backcountry in
Backcountry.
general, like in the winter, with no reception, getting away from your phone, getting away from the hustle and bustle of life, just getting out there. It's so necessary for everybody, nowadays, like with social media and stuff, you got to make sure that you get your necessary time off and get into
Yeah,
the backcountry.
yeah. You can't spend all day in clubhouse if you're out in the backcountry.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Got to find that balance.
Now this an epic, epic shot. I love the obviously the black and white treatment of this one, but yeah, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so this one, once again, right, like going out with my best friends, having the best time ever. This day was perfect. The light was coming in and out, it was storming, and this was one of the biggest ski lines I've ever skied in my life. We had to like boot pack up this ice fall. We didn't have any crampons, we didn't have any, ice axes. It was super sketchy, but we got up there and skied down this crazy huge line. Um, and the story I wanted to talk about with this one was the importance of passion projects, because this was one of like my highest paid gigs I've ever had in my life. I basically went out, had the best time of my life with some of my best friends for 5 days in the backcountry, took a bunch of photos, and then I ended up selling all these images to the Fairmont Chateau Whistler. And they put up like 66 prints of mine in their hotel from this one day of just doing it for the love and the passion and the pleasure. So, not every gig has to, or not every time you take photos has to be paid for. It's important to remember that you've got to do your own personal projects and have these things, because you never know what's going to come out of them. You never know what light you're going to get. And if you never go, you won't know. So
It's
that's
a
kind of what I wanted
subject.
to talk about.
Yeah, it's a subject that comes up all the time here on our live show at SmugMug Live and also on our podcast, the Photography Lounge podcast cheap plug for the podcast there. But yeah, the passion projects, personal projects, they're so critical to a photographer's career. I guess any creative's career, but in the world of photography that we're in, they really are so important. One, it gives you the opportunity to practice your craft and keep active in your craft, but it's typically the work that you truly love, and therefore it's the best type of work that you want to be paid for if you can do that for a living. And the best way to get those gigs is to show that you can do them. Like if you can, I always say to people, people say to me, what images should I put on my SmugMug website? What images should I put on my portfolio? Because I have a whole range, I love all these different things. And I said, well, show the work you want to be hired for. Like
Exactly.
that's how you get, the lifestyle or the career opportunities that you dream of, is by showing that you can do them. And the best way to achieve that is to shoot these personal passion projects that are the things you love to do, and therefore hopefully people see them and then commission you to do them afterwards. So it doesn't matter what genre of photography you do, whether it's portraiture, adventure, sport, wildlife. A lot of the time it's doing it for yourself, and then the work comes afterwards. It's a very important
That's
part
just
of
it.
what we do. So
Couldn't have said it better.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
could have. You could have said it in your
No, I couldn't have. That was exactly what was in my mind. That was
said it in your
perfect.
cool Canadian accent. That would have been
Eh?
sorry.
Want the maple syrup?
Yeah. So let's not start talking about accents, because who am I to talk? The no, this is something, as a photographer, I always love seeing, and I've tried it very unsuccessfully many times. This I just yeah I love mountain biking as well, so this one speaks to me a lot. I really like this image.
Yeah. So I actually have a tutorial, Al, if you want to look up
Ah,
how to do these. It's super simple, believe it or
okay.
not, to make these. But this is another, simple story of shooting for the passion, the pleasure, and the fun. This was the year after, or maybe 2 years after that train gap photo of the same Italian guys. And it just so happens whenever they come to town, like we take photos and something happens with the images. And this one ended up being a cover for Mountain Life
Right.
Media, my first ever cover. I didn't submit it to the magazine. They saw it on Instagram. So people are looking to remind you, like, post your stuff on social, post it on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. They
Flickr.
look, they look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was, during Crankworks, there was a forest fire coming through. It was a sunset, and there was like 7 other photographers right beside me. And the thing is I used to get kind of demoralized when this was the case, because there's so many photographers and like, oh, why would I shoot this? Like, we're all gonna get the same shot. But that's such a tough thing to get your mind out of, right? Because in the end, art is subjective, and no matter who's close to you, whatever they're doing, whatever they're shooting with like a camera, if it's the same lens, same spot, you'll each have different images no matter what.
Yeah.
You can't recreate exactly what you're doing. So I remember I was like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna shoot this. Even though there's 7 photographers beside me, I'm just gonna do this. I did it, and it ended up being one of like my most successful images because I got a cover. And it's just
Yeah.
been widely distributed within the Sea to Sky corridor here. And I get people that still like send me photos on Instagram with like the cover of it. They're like, "Hey, look, this is your photo." I'm like, "Oh man, that's so cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what makes
So,
this such a great example of a cover shot? It's the negative space, right? The
mm,
you've got the great action of the mountain biker. You've got an incredible recession of it. The hills as the mountains disappear into the smog, I guess, if it's a forest fire coming through. But the negative space at the top and the bottom, a lot of people from a photographic perspective would look at this and say, oh, the big dark bit at the bottom, it doesn't really do anything for the photograph.
yeah.
But what it does for a magazine is it gives them space to put the title, it gives them space to put copy at the bottom. There's gaps down the left where they can put what else is inside the magazine. This is like such a textbook example of what you need to be thinking about if you're wanting to get cover shots. If you fill the whole image with a mountain bike, there's nowhere to put that, the copy and the title of the magazine. So it's a great example of that. Really well done.
That's a really good point. And don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't do something with photography or art in general, right? Because what looks good to you might not look good to me. What looks good to Al might not look good to Jenna or anything like that, right? Like
Yeah,
there's so much different beauty in art as photography as a whole. And I've been told that before, like, oh, too much negative space, you should crop this. And I'm just like, for some reason I like it. I can't explain why. I want it to be like this, right? And there was a reason because it was meant to be a cover, I guess.
yeah,
Like it gives me goosebumps thinking about stuff like that.
yeah. And I mean, the negative space is important for the cover, but it also makes you read the image differently. Like, what is he falling into? I assume it's a male. What are they falling into? Like, it's like the abyss. Where is the ground? And then
Hmm.
this huge sky above them. It's like, just look how high they are. They're above the mountains. So yeah, we can all interpret an image differently. But as an art director for a magazine or something, then negative space is something that you need to think about. Whatever genre you shoot, if one of your goals is to get a cover, think about how that art director is going to use your image and the things they have to do to sell a
Totally.
magazine and stuff. So really, really excellent shot. And I'll check out your tutorial and then
I look
we'll
forward to seeing your first image,
yeah,
sequence image. Yeah.
slacklining, dude. Man, this is incredible for various reasons, but an incredible shot. Tell us more.
Yeah. So this was just a day that, I live like I could see that peak from my front yard here. So, I look up there and I couldn't see anything. I have a buddy say like, "Hey, come on up. We're doing slackline today. You should come take some shots." And I was kind of like, "Oh, it's so foggy. I won't be able to see anything. Like, I don't think I'm gonna come." I don't remember what it was, but something just kind of sparked me to get up there, get out of my bed and just go up and, hang out with the friends and stuff. And I remember walking up there, I had another friend with me coming as well. And I just remember like getting up there and looking, and I was just like, whoa, this is dramatic as ever. I couldn't believe it. And this is arguably one of the greatest slackliners in the industry. Her name's Mia. She's incredible. She does so many cool Mia Noblet, if you're interested in checking out her work. She's just an absolute rad lady who puts up these lines like in the winter on top of ski hills and all this stuff. But I remember taking these images, and I think I wasn't super into the black and white at that time in that space, but I remembered after I was sitting down on my computer and editing the images, fog really adds to, the whole emotional factor to images. So I remember putting it in black and white and I just lost it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I meant to do. Like this is why I went up there today." Um and I just still once again it just gives me goosebumps thinking cuz that the drop underneath her is probably 600 meters, maybe even less, maybe 500 meters or something like that. Like it's it's painstaking or like heart-staking to think about doing this yourself, and I still haven't had the guts to get up there. But every time I go up and shoot them, like, "All right, Jeremy, is today the day?" And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not good slackliner anyway, so this highlining thing has just been eye-opening to me.
Yeah, it's an
Just another
incredible
day with the
sport.
friends.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're very blessed to have Ryan Robinson, a great slackliner on SmugMug as well. He's a great photographer as well as a slackliner, and he keeps saying, "Let's get together and I'll teach you how to slackline." So I just avoid him. I just don't go in. It's like,
I
I'm not going
love
to do
that.
that.
I
I'm not do
love
that.
that.
If anybody's ever met me, I'm 6'5". I'm tall enough without having to stand above gaps like this. The treatment of this image, black and white, but the contrast on this image, it just gives this sense of awe. Like, you just
Mm.
have no idea how far Mia is above anything. She's literally in the clouds. It's absolute phenomenal. I love this so much, Jeremy. This is such a successful shot. Incredible.
Thanks, Al. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
we're joined in the chat by Conor Mcneil, another SmugMug ambassador, a great travel landscape photographer, known
Thanks,
as
Connor.
the fella Conor McNeil, and he says it's a stunning image. So high praise from Conor. Thanks, Conor. Good to see you in the chat
Thanks,
today.
Connor,
Appreciate it,
man.
man.
That means the
Yeah.
world. That means the world to me, man. Jeez.
I think we could
That's
just
awesome.
leave this image up here all day. It's absolutely stunning. But let's move on to the next one if we can. Let's
See
get.
what else we got. I forget what
Oh,
else I added in here.
Could
Oh,
could this be any different from the last one? It's like, from dark, moody, dark, black and white, contrasty one to
yeah.
epicness of another scale. This is the sky we all dream of photographing, I think.
Hawaii.
Ah.
My one word, Hawaii. Right? Like this was the best sunset of my life. And there's this thing. I forget what day they do it. I think it's on Mondays or something. And they have like this drum circle with like 100 people hitting the drums. And I remember this. The reason why I wanted to bring up this image was because I was just up on top of this log taking photos, and I see in the distance, like you can't see it in the photo, but like there's a whale that basically popped up and just like literally sat on top of the water with its eye looking at the drum circle for like a minute. And I was just in awe. Everybody was freaking out. Everybody ran to the water with their drums, banging on the drums, and just basically like praising Mother Nature and how like massive these creatures are.
Yeah.
And this image just brings back like goosebumps and shivers and thoughts of a time that was, you know, back then. It was just too perfect to be true.
One of those great things about photography is being able to instantly transport ourselves to another time and place and be right back there with the sounds in our heads, the smells, the tastes, whatever it is. Photography is just phenomenal from that perspective of capturing a memory but being able to transport us back there in an instant. So it sounds like it was a very special moment. I can't imagine what a whale made of people drumming. I guess those deep tones, they would hear those for miles underwater. So
Totally.
absolutely incredible.
Totally.
I'd have been happy with
Yeah.
just the sky, but to get a whale,
Yeah. I know, I couldn't believe my eyes, and it just sat there with its eye. It was so strange. Like it came up and did its spout, and then just like turned over and just like rested its eye looking at us. Like you could tell it liked it. It was so crazy. I've never experienced anything like that before. And Hawaii is just one of those special places. And I was supposed to be there last April for my birthday and had to postpone the trip, but we'll be back soon. Hawaii, we'll be back soon.
yeah, hopefully back traveling. Scott says, insane story and image. This is what photography is about. Indeed, that's why we do what we
Thanks,
do.
Scott.
And OL says, awesome, JJ.
Ocean. Oh, thank you. You're the best. You're the best.
Yeah, let's see what's next here. This is a very special image of yours. I know you've told me a little bit about this. This is your buddy Jake, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Jack, his name was
Sorry,
Jack.
Jack.
He
Yeah,
passed away. Yeah, no worries. His name is Jack Sketty. He passed away. He was a friend of the mountain, a lover of the mountains, and I just needed to give him a little shout out here because
yeah,
he was the guy that stoked me up so much with photography. He was the guy that would bring me up in the cat, like the snow groomer basically at night times just to get out there and take some photos. Totally illegal what he did. Like he probably would have been fired if they were
yeah,
listening to this. But you know, the reason why I kind of wanted to bring this up because I felt like my images told me more. And you could see in the background there's crosses in the snow, like the trees with little crosses. And I remember thinking helplessly after he passed away, I was like, I should have looked at these and realized maybe there was some like my photography was trying to tell me something,
mm,
which is I don't know if anybody's ever experienced anything like this before, but this was like one of those times like that just kind of it blew me away. And I have more images of him where he kind of like disappears into thin air as a long exposure from that night that he took us up in the cat.
yeah,
That kind of just brought me to this whole idea that maybe there's something more behind photography and art that we don't even realize. Might sound crazy and voodoo, but I don't know. It's crazy. And this guy was just the best guy of the mountains.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and great that you have these memories of him. I can understand, like reading more into that, especially when these quite clearly and very distinct crosses are next to his head. They're not just like bits of the tree. They're very clearly crosses, and I can understand how you can interpret it that way. But what a great memory to have of someone who was very dear and special to you, and you definitely created some incredible memories with him in the mountains for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like this day that we were shooting was the best day of my life on skis. We were five guys just absolutely blazing through this area in Whistler and it was just the nicest snow and he did the biggest drop of the day and everybody was freaking out. He was an amazing dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a bit different from what we've been looking at. Some portraiture from you for some lifestyle work.
Yeah, so this was with Red Bull. They basically flew me out 2 summers ago to learn how to shoot for Red Bull Canada or Red Bull as a brand in general. They host this thing called Red Bull Rising Talent, which is for photographers under 25 years old. that basically you get invited to go and learn from some of the best photographers within their company. So we learned from Scott Surface, we learned from Tristan O'Brien. We had people come up on stage and speak to us, like just a small
Mm-hmm.
focus group of like 6 or 7 people, maybe it was 7 or 8 people, and
It's
we just
awesome.
had such an amazing time. They taught us how to, take photos, how to use lighting and stuff. And I just wanted to throw this in here because this was probably my most proud portrait I ever taken, and my first portrait with light. So yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. What a great opportunity to learn from your peers in that way.
yeah. Chicho Kokafo is his name. Best guy ever. Good biker. Great guy.
Speaking of great bikers and biking shots, is this Crankworks again?
Crankworks again, the same
Yeah.
guy. The same guy that whenever he comes to town, things just happen with this man. You know, I can't even express my gratitude enough for the Italian bike crew, the CP gang, and what they've done for me in terms of my career. But this was another day just shooting for fun, right? Like I same thing, like 14 photographers this time. You see how many people there were? Like half those people on that little round there are photographers taking
Mm-hmm.
images for brands or businesses, whatever it may be. And I remember I was feeling so down. I'm like, oh, like nothing's gonna happen with these images. There's so many people. I should have learned from that time before, right? Getting the cover. I should have learned. And anyways, I still took the photos. And then I got an email from Tourism Whistler, the tourism board of Whistler Blackcomb. And they said, hey, do you have any images from Crankworks? I said, I do. And they ended up picking this one and paid me a handsome chunk of money to be able to use it for their social and their web stuff, which was beyond, right? Like just going out there taking photos of these guys again for fun, and just things happen when you do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and it's an image that tells a story, right? It's not just your buddy up in the air with a nondescript mountain behind him and a ramp. This
Hmm.
tells the story of Whistler, and it tells the story of the event. There's so many use cases for this.
Yeah.
Shows the atmosphere, shows people on the chairlift going by, cranking their necks to see this
Yeah,
this incredible
totally.
shot. It's epic, and it's pretty cool technically, right? Because you've got the continuous shot of the biker, but then you've got everybody else is just still. So you've done some cool merging of the images there to tell a great story. So yeah,
Totally.
great job, man.
Yeah, it's awesome just getting stoked up about my own images. It makes me want to go out and shoot, and I hope it makes everybody else that's listening want to
Great,
go out and
man. That's
shoot.
awesome. That's what
And
we want, right? We want to inspire and motivate people with
yeah,
this show. So
totally.
yeah.
And one more thing I wanted to say was the reason why they ended up purchasing this image was all the forest fire smokes, with climate change and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The years before, there was never views like this of the village. So they needed something fresh. They needed something new that could show the village and crankworks going on. And I had no idea what they wanted. I was just shooting for fun, right? It just turned out that, I took this image and they wanted it specifically for that reason, that you could see Whistler in the background. You could see the crowd. You could see, the big box over there with all the people in it. It was just, yeah,
Yeah.
climate change is a real thing.
Yeah, and you can see the
Yeah.
fancy hotel that hopefully people will spend money to go stay in and all that type of thing.
Yeah,
So I can
exactly.
I can completely understand from a a tourist board use case how cool this image would be for them. Whereas a lot of people would be focusing on the technicalities of the cycling and those kind of portrait type shots, which obviously have a use case for the teams and all that type of stuff. But yeah, don't forget the bigger story. Don't forget the use cases of having a wider shot rather than a crop shot and busy shots. A lot of people would probably say, "Oh, I wish I could get a shot without all the people in the foreground," but look at the use case. That's exactly what they want to show. They want to show a busy event. They want to show people having a great time and look at the close access you get to the athletes and that type of stuff. So it's a very important type of shot. Yeah, cool.
Thanks, Al. Yeah. This one has a small story to it, but this was my first ever real paid shoot. It was with Red Bull.
Mm.
Um, I met Red Bull pumpkin picking on a farm. Super random.
Of
I was
course you
pumpkin
did.
picking.
That didn't
Yeah.
everybody?
I was pumpkin picking on a farm. This is a pretty cool story. And I saw this person and I had an idea for a photo with her and her friend. I was like, hey, can you put these pumpkins on your head? I'd love to get a photo of it. So they did it. And then we started chatting. I was like, hey, if you want the images, like send me a message on Instagram. So 3 days later, I get a message from her. She's like, hey, Jeremy, like wanted to connect with you professionally. What's your email address? So I sent her my email address. I'm like, this is strange. Like there was nothing about who she was on her Instagram page. She was on private. And then I get this email, and all I see at the bottom when I open it is like the big Red Bull banner at the bottom. And it turned out she was the media marketing manager for Red Bull Canada. So you never know who you're beside. You never know who you're talking to. Bring a smile, bring some good vibes. Do something for someone today that you never know what kind of effect it might have, right? And for me, it was like the idea to take a photo of someone, and I wasn't being shy. I wanted this to happen, and Red Bull came out of it, and they've been a client of mine for a couple of years now. So it's incredible.
Yeah, that's a great message in there. Is practice your craft, let people know about your craft, let people know what you do, and more importantly, be a good person, and cool things happen
That's
for
it.
sure.
That's it.
I
Yeah.
think we'll finish with this one because it's a
Cool.
nice way to finish the set. A lovely, calm, peaceful evening shot. It's late in the evening here in Scotland, so this is putting me in the mood to like wind things down. But
Have a
let
cuppa.
yeah, before we hear a little bit about this image, I'll just say to folks, if you're enjoying listening to Jeremy, give him a thumbs up in the window here on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up window, show him his support. Obviously, supports us here on the show as well, but more importantly, it means that YouTube will show this clip to more people, and more people will get to know about Jeremy's work, and that's what we want. We want people to know about this awesome rad dude that does incredible photography like this. So tell us a little bit more
Thanks,
about this
Al.
shot.
Yeah, this was, the struggles. This one just brings me back to the struggles of not having the proper gear, right? So everybody says you need the best camera to do this, you need the best camera to do that, buy like the 10,000 camera, the expensive lenses, whatever it may be. This was done with a Canon 70D and like a 24 to 105 lens, right? I couldn't get any wider. So I ended up basically shooting like a bunch of images. I think this was like a 12 image stitch. Um, I really wanted that wide angle. I saw the image. I was standing there. I'm like, this is like a perfect set. Like, I need to create this. I didn't know how. And then I was like YouTubing some stuff, and I figured out you could just do stitching on images. I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's try it. So I started taking a bunch of images with my tripod, basically like stacking them all together. Um, and this image got me in touch with one of the best night photographers in Whistler named David McCollum. He basically gave me praise, saying like, this is the nicest image. This is like year one of photography for me. He's like, this is the nicest image that has come out of Rainbow Park in Whistler ever. And I was just dumbfounded by someone such an inspiration of mine to say something like that. That just kind of brought me to wanting to create more and do more. So excuse me. So yeah, this is definitely one of those images that just can speak 1,000 words. You got the aurora borealis, you got the Milky Way up there, and some lights, and just you don't need the best camera to create something like this. You don't. It was the same thing with Red Bull too, right? Like I had a Canon 70D, and I rocked up, and he's like, "What are you shooting with?" A Canon 70D, and he's like, "Oh, how did you get this job?" I'm like, "I just met someone. Like I don't know, man. Like I'm not." It was my first paid shoot. He's like, "Where's your laptop?" I'm like, "I don't own a laptop." He's like, "Oh, like, do you know how to edit images?" I was like, not fully. He's like, oh God. So like we finish the shoot, we go down into the cafe, and he's like showing me how to edit photos, and I was such a beginner. I couldn't believe it. And like he still helped me out with all this stuff. So you don't need all the best gear. It still worked out for me in the end. Say yes. Say
Absolutely.
yes.
Say yes. But also learn when to say no. But say yes a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's a
not
really good
yes,
point.
no.
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
Jeremy, thank you. We're going to get to the questions now that are in the chat window and answer some of those. But thank you for letting us look through those images. Absolutely love seeing a lot of them. I've been looking at them for way too long and going down all sorts of rabbit holes, looking at your work and getting lost in time at some incredible images. And as someone who loves skiing and mountain biking, just having that draw, that longing to be able to go do it once it's safe enough for us to get back in the hills and do these type of things. And especially mountain biking, that's something I love to do with the family or with friends. So desperately missing that community to go do that. But hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Whenever you come out here, Al, you got a place.
Oh,
I'll show you around.
can't wait. Can't wait. Count on it. Absolutely count on it.
Take you highlining.
Jim gave a comment, said the green glow is air glow or night glow. Thanks for that, Jim.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, we knew someone would give us a shout out there. Right, I'm scrolling back to some questions here. You can help me with the pronunciation. You mentioned it earlier. Is it Dunya? Dunya?
Dunya. Yeah.
Dunya? Sorry, Dunya. they ask, what's the long term vision with the photography? Do you have a long term vision? Have you been thinking long term yet? Or
Oh,
still
that's a great
still trying to
question.
save up for that laptop and learn how to edit? What's
Yeah, totally. I think, when it comes to long-term vision is just to inspire and to help other people that are just starting create, and that's one of the things why I started on Clubhouse so much is to give these resources to those that need it, right? And I think with photography as well, something that's always been on my mind is change. I've always wanted to use my platforms to make change for the better in the world, right? Whether that be about bullying or racism or climate change, whatever it may be, like I only want the best for everybody. And I think with me in general as a whole, it's just one of those things that I can't stress enough how important it is to use platforms for the right reasons. So with photography, whether it be, making a print that supports, a foundation or supports an athlete of mine that I've worked with, or, you know, there's just for me long term, I haven't really completely set a game plan for it. But in terms of photography, like I just want to keep creating for the love and the passion. So that's a great question, Dunya. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Oh, you're muted, Hal, I think.
Sorry, hit the mute button while you were talking there. Um, the Scott says, if you could only shoot one sport, what would it be?
Oh, skiing. Skiing in a heartbeat because that way I could ski as well, right? Like it's funny with skiing because I find myself having struggles going out and skiing and shooting it because I have a huge camera bag on and I don't get to, get the power turns as nice as I'd like to. So as long as I could just get out there though, it would be super nice to be able to keep skiing in my repertoire and be able to do that for the rest of my life. That's a great question.
Yeah, right there with you. I love it. Krishna says, I got goosebumps looking at photos and the stories. Yeah,
Oh,
awesome, having an impact.
thanks so much.
And James said, it's not the gear, it's the photographer. Very, very true, James.
Yep.
We see that time and time again. Um, right, Pat came back here with the doomsday scenario. If you couldn't travel anymore for photography work and had to stay in one city you've been to before for the rest of your life, where would you choose?
Oh, I loved Dublin. I loved Ireland so much. I think for me, when it comes to choosing a city, I've never been a city guy. Like I live in the mountains, right? Like I think it would probably have to be Vancouver just because you're close to the mountains. And you have the ocean. But if it were more to be like for sports, it would be Vancouver for sure. But if it were to be for lifestyle and this kind of thing, I think it would probably be like Dublin. The people in Ireland just blew me away. I was just so blessed to meet so many amazing people in Ireland. And if any of my Irish families listening, like I can't wait to come out and see you and have some good times again. Like, yeah.
It's the Guinness, right? It's the Guinness.
That's the Guinness. Oh, it's the Guinness.
Yeah, Dublin's cool. Our Celtic brothers over there in Dublin have had a lot of good times in Dublin, let me tell you. But no, I'm
Oh
not going
yeah.
to tell you because I'm not allowed to tell you. Yeah, Connor, I knew you were going to say that. Connor said the Irish are much better than the Scottish. Okay, Connor.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
Shots fired.
this is. I'm going to delete your episode. Someone look back and tell me what episode Connor was on because I'm going to delete that episode after that comment. That's unfair and uncalled for, Connor. But
Love it, Connor. Good
next time
play.
we're together, Connor, we'll have that debate in person. John says, get a shot of Alistair in the train gap. No, that's it's
Let's
not going
get
to
you on the
happen.
bike, Al.
Yeah, one for several reasons, mostly because I don't have the talent to make the gap in the first place. So that's not going to happen.
That's
Junius
such a good
says,
one.
so proud of you, JJ. It's been a true blessing hearing you speak today. Ah,
Thanks so
cool.
much.
Christian says, best piece of photography advice you've received.
Ooh, F8. F8 and be there. Yeah, I'd say F8. I mean, this guy I met in Hawaii, Lino Vonderbay, was still one of my best friends from Germany, and I met him at a hostel. And he basically, we were walking down this Kalalau Trail. It's like an 11-mile hike, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I remember asking him like, "Hey man, like you take photos often. Like, what's the best piece of advice you can give me?" He's like, "Dude, just use F8. The colors are great. The sharpness is perfect, and that's probably the best piece of advice I can give you." And I was like, good to know. I don't always use that to be fair. Like that's a great landscape technique, but when it comes to wanting, like that separation between like myself and like the background here, for example, like, use a lower or higher or I guess the lower f-stop, so an f like 2.8. It's tough to say what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Bigger f stop, smaller number.
Bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bigger
yeah, it's,
hole.
it's tough.
It's a
Yeah,
complicated
exactly.
part of photography, but yeah, be there is definitely a great piece of advice. We can all
Show up.
talk great photography, but few of us get up and go do it. And if you're not there, it doesn't matter how good a photographer you are, you're never going to capture it if you're not there. So
So true.
great piece of advice to finish with. Before we do finish, folks, do me a huge favor. Hit that button, hit that bell notification. That way you'll be notified, as I said earlier, about all the episodes we've got coming here. Smash that thumbs up button. I'm sounding like one of those YouTuber folks telling you to smash buttons, but it really shows the appreciation for Jeremy and everything we do here at SmugMug Live. And we really want people to hear the stories of all our guests and to get inspired and motivated by their photography. So do us a favor and hit those buttons for me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Jeremy, thank you so much. Where can people find you? I've put all the links, to be honest, in the description, but where's the best place for people to go to find your work?
Yeah, best place is Instagram, really, at the full-time hobby, or on my website, thefulltimehobby.com. And message me. I'm happy to chat with anybody if you have any questions, whatever it may be, if you want advice. Like I'm an open book, right? I'd love to help you out whatever way I can, whether it be with mental health, whether it be with photography, substance, whatever it is. Yeah, that's just about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you've definitely lifted our spirits today. Thank you so much for the story, the conversation, inspiring and motivating us, and thanks for being a great human, Jeremy. We do appreciate it. To you that have been watching, thank you for giving us our time today, and for listening to Jeremy, and for the great questions and the great comments that I see are still coming in. So we'll let Jeremy see them in the replay. You can go watch all the great comments that are coming in, Jeremy. But wherever you are in the world today, stay safe, be good, be kind to each other, look after each other, and we'll see you back here for another episode of SmugMug Live very soon. Jeremy, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Speak to you soon.